How you doing, Tippi?
I am wonderful. Thanks for asking. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic, thanks. I have a little bit of a cold, so the
Same.
listeners will. Oh, awesome! This will be the cold episode.
Nothing to celebrate, actually, but yeah, samesies.
You know what, though? There's kind of maybe not a celebration, but there's always a lesson, and that's what we do here on the Hair Game podcast. Try not to preach, but there's always a lesson. Tippy and I were talking before we started recording. And I always like to kind of tell the listeners what we were talking about. We were talking about the life of an entrepreneur, an independent beauty professional, a
Hmm.
salon, studio, whatever owner, educator, is the life of somebody who never stops going, right? It
Right,
just happens.
right.
And you can't stop it because you're feeling bad.
That's true. I mean, life does go on. So, luckily, I've got such a really great support system at home that, helps manage all those things. And I've got an incredible team at my salon Hair Love here in Kansas City that, I mean, I was out for a week. And in fact, I'm still out
Ah,
last week because I was sick and truly just on the mend. I think my fever just broke like yesterday morning,
wow.
and but my voice, you can still hear it. I mean, I do have like a raspy voice naturally, but this is extra. My husband's like, "Hello, sir," and but out this week because I'm moving my salon, so I'm meeting the HVAC guy, the electrician, the contractor, and all those things. And I'm literally sitting in my car right now outside of my new location.
Sitting in her car, she's got to meet the contractor, she's got to do the life of the entrepreneur thing. I'm in my office here at Salon Republic Hair Game Podcast HQ, even though I have a cold, because life doesn't stop just because I have a cold.
Right,
And we do the podcast even if I sound nasally. At least I'm not like that.
right,
And
right. Well,
I would probably, yeah.
sometimes it gives a little different flair. I'm not mad at it.
Right. It's just the way it goes, and
Yeah,
it's all part of life, especially post COVID,
right.
where the excuses started flying. COVID became the great excuse generating era. And I feel like we're coming out of that slowly but surely. So, all right. So, Tippy Shorter Rank. You're Tippy Shorter on Instagram. You have one
I
of
am.
those names that I'm envious of because you get your whole, well, almost your whole name. You probably could put rank at the end, but you've got Tippy Shorter, and that's right.
I actually have two Instagram pages. So Tippi Shorter was my original page. So also let me add, legally I am Tippi Shorter. I've actually been married for 18 years.
Oh my
And
gosh.
when I got married, I was on tour with Alicia Keys. And I did not
Ah,
have the opportunity to change my last name because I couldn't wait for a new passport because we were doing on a world tour. So I ended up not changing my last name, but I do want to, like most, professionally, everyone knows me as Tippi Shorter. I'm like, let me honor my husband. Let me, add his name. So on my paperwork, rank is actually not there. So that's why it's Tippi Shorter on my Instagram. However, that account got hacked. About a
oh,
year or two before COVID. So I ended up creating a new account, which is Tippi Shorter Rank. And
okay.
but I was able to get my original account back, so that's the one I use. So I am actually on Instagram on both.
Got it. And do you actually, are you active on Tippy Shorter Rank also?
No, only
Okay.
during the downtime of my original page.
Okay. So, fun trivia here. You said you're on tour with Alicia Keys, who's
Hmm.
amazing. I love Alicia Keys. I every now and then when I'm in the car, I don't mind admitting that I dive into an Alicia Keys, whirlwind, and I listen to all those great songs. She's so good. So the trivia is, when I started my first salon, when I opened the first Salon Republic in Studio City, California, we had a hairstylist in there, and I'm sitting here on air thinking to myself, I can't believe you don't remember her name. She was so
You said in
awesome.
Studio City.
Yeah, in Studio City. So she
Hmm.
was doing Alicia when she was becoming big. Now this is 25 years ago.
Nikki.
Nikki,
Hmm.
yes, is she in New York still?
No, I think I'm not exactly sure where Nikki is. So we've only met once actually. Nikki
Okay.
was And I only know this because Alicia's makeup artist was with her during Nikki time, and she's the one who introduced me to Alicia.
Got it.
So Nikki was the braider. So Nikki, like all of
Yes,
Alicia's really cool braids, that was Nikki. And I
that's right.
believe she moved to the South somewhere. I'm not exactly
Okay.
sure. But the song New York State of Mind, or Empire New York State of Mind with Jay-Z, Alicia wanted to pay homage to New York and really kind of reflect a little bit back on like her original days. So she was like, I'd love for you and Nikki to collaborate. So on that video, Nikki did like the braids in the front and I did everything in the back. So Nikki and I
Wow.
worked in tandem for that particular video. So that was the only time actually that I met Nikki.
I remember that video, and
Yeah.
it's so cool to know where that hairstyle came from, because I remember thinking, and I just kind of assumed that it was Nikki, although I didn't really do any math on like the era, and
Yeah.
and and I know that of course there's phases and people change and stuff like that, but that was when Alicia was becoming really big, and then Nikki left the salon to move to New York to
Mm-hmm.
be with her, I guess, full time.
Mm-hmm.
And about every, I don't know, once a year or so, I would hear from her or text her or something like that. And then we just eventually lost touch. But that's so cool.
Yeah. So I started working with Alicia in 2005. So basically, when Alicia was transitioning out of the braids and she was wearing her hair either down straight or out curly, is when I started working with her. So primarily
Yeah.
2005.
Okay, so I remember that transition when Alicia went from the braids to the other styles. And it's funny, I'm thinking back, it's 24 years ago. But Nikki had a lot of celebrity clients, and a lot of these guys and girls would come in, and they oftentimes had posses. They came in with
Hmm.
all their friends, and their friends would occupy that entire side of the salon, and it was always fun. So I'll never forget that. But okay, so are you? What is your current professional life look like? Are you doing normal people? Are you doing are you doing celebrities? Are you traveling for shows or editorial or anything like that?
So many things have changed. So I did celebrity exclusively full time for 15 years. And so did not touch a salon. In fact, prior to, I owned a salon in New York City and then sold it when I went on tour with Rihanna. Yeah, I didn't even have a passport at that point. So she was the very
Mm.
first person to take me out of the country. And so since then, I chose to transition out of celebrity work because, as life changes, things, your priorities change. I became a wife, I became a mom, and I just didn't want to go out of the country at the drop of a hat for who knows how long anymore. And I just
Yeah.
really wanted to have a bit more onus over my own schedule. So with that, yeah, I chose to step away, which is so crazy. My friends are just like, "Are you crazy? People are, dying to get into this industry, and people are dying to, do what you do." And I'm like, "That's great." I literally have had the pleasure of touching almost everyone's head that I wanted to touch. There's still two people,
Wow.
Oprah
Okay.
Oprah, and Michelle Obama, and probably I'll add Kamala Harris
Hmm.
to that now to also. And but those
Hmm.
things, you never know, they can still happen. But
Hmm.
I mean, my hands have been in the head of Beyonce, Tracy Ellis Ross, Lady Gaga. Like as I mentioned, Rihanna and Alicia Keys. So I really had the pleasure of really working with my beauty heroes or my hair heroes, if you will.
Yeah.
So I
Sure.
chose to pivot. And when I pivoted, I went into education because it allowed me still to travel locally, nationally, and internationally, but on a different time frame. It,
Hmm.
it went from, "Hey, Tippi, you have to go to Japan tomorrow for 2 weeks," to, "Hey,
Oh,
Tippi, we're looking to do, a class in Europe, and, over these course of months, what does your time look like?" And I'm like, "Whoa, you're actually asking me what,
you
what can
care
I
about
do?"
whether, yeah, I could do it. Yeah.
Right. So that I appreciated.
Mm.
I appreciated everything prior, but I was really ready for a different pace, if you will.
It's a
So
very particular lifestyle
yeah.
that fits a very particular person, in a
Yeah.
very particular time of their life.
In their life, exactly. And I did it and it was amazing. And then it was time to pivot. And so today I currently hold quite a few titles, but I am an educator. So I'm a global artistic director with Mazzani. I'm a L'Oreal professional hair color educator. I'm part of the ambassador team for the Texture of Change movement, which is advocating to make testing, education and testing mandatory in all beauty schools in every state at every level. And
And that's
so,
working, right? New
yeah,
York
it is.
State, what,
California.
Minnesota,
Yeah. So
California? Yep.
I actually was in Sacramento and tested, which is crazy because they're like, hey, Tippi, we'd love for you to come to Sacramento and testify to Congress on behalf of L'Oreal. And I'm like, what does that mean? You know? And so, when I did it and it was amazing and it was a unanimous yes. And so now the bill's sitting on the governor's desk and just waiting for the bill to be passed into law, but it has been passed. And so those are the things that I'm doing these days, on top of having a daughter who is in her last year of high school. And so that's a whole other bag of, activities, emotions, and all the things, because she's an athlete as well. And then I'm a wife. And so, always not trying to put my husband last, but he's like, I believe I'm the lowest on your totem pole. And so trying to make him feel like he's not.
Yeah.
And then self-care and taking care of me, because I'm also a woman of a certain age. And so, just making sure that I'm amazing as well. On top of having a salon, I moved out of New York City 13 years ago, and I have had a salon here in Kansas City now for 2 years.
Okay. Well, that's very exciting. Normally, I introduce my guests, but we just kind of started talking, and you did it for me. So there you go, listeners. I'm not going to give her an official intro because you already got it. You got a much better one from her. Let's back it up a little bit, Tippi, and tell us where you're from originally and how you got into this business.
Sure. So I grew up, not born in California, but I grew up in Southern California, in Long Beach to be specific. So the two questions I get asked all the time are, do I know Snoop and Cameron Diaz? And yes, to those answers.
I didn't know Cameron Diaz was from Long Beach.
Yeah, she's from LBC. She went, so
Okay.
I did not go to high school with Snoop. He and Cameron went to high school together. They went to Poly High School. I went to Jordan, which was their rival. But I've known Snoop since I was 9 because I lived next door to his cousin. So,
Oh my gosh.
and I've been in school with him, I think, since I was in 7th grade. So we went to middle
Very
school together.
interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So about the same age, give or take.
He's 2 years older.
Okay.
So when I was a sophomore, he was a senior. And I think Cameron, he and Cameron are the same age. So they were both seniors when I was a sophomore.
Okay, so you have to regale us with at least one or two stories, like early Snoop, like pre-Snoop stories. Like
well,
what's his real name again? Calvin.
Sure.
Okay, whatever.
We'll go with Calvin because that's what he likes to go by. But
Okay, I was in there somewhere, so at least I got that right. But maybe that's not his. That's what he wants to be. Got it.
Yes, that's what he wants to be, but that's not what's in my yearbook. So we'll go with what he wants to go with.
You don't have to tell us.
I will not, because he will not be knocking on my door. But he's always been amazing. He was like the class comedian. He always made us laugh. He was always full of raps, super talented. He's just always been the guy that drew everyone close to him. And we used to call him Snoopy. Actually, so as an adult man, he dropped the P or the Y rather, and just goes by Snoop. But yeah, we all
and why Snoopy? Why'd you call him Snoopy?
You know what? I was introduced to him as Snoopy. I think maybe because people thought he looked like Snoopy from the cartoon. I don't know exactly. I'm not exactly sure why his name was Snoopy, but that's what I knew him as. And I don't know if I have any like actual real stories, but I've known him since, like I said, I was 9, and he was or is just a cool dude. I will say that after his like rise to celebrity, I was, like I said, a hairstylist for Alicia Keys and Rihanna. Those were kind of the two main like A-list celebrities that I worked with in the early 2000s or early to mid 2000s. And I would see him on the red carpets of like the MTV Awards and things like that. And he would see me and call me my legal name, which is not Tippi.
Mm,
he would call me the name that I was born with. And so I'd have
hmm.
to, obviously call him his name, which
Yeah.
is in my yearbook. So I would see him years and years and years after. And it was like no time was lost. He's just an amazing dude.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. And not hard to believe any of that kind of thing
Yeah.
because it just oozes so naturally. It seems to ooze from him, the humor and the talent and all that
hmm
stuff,
hmm
even still. And I love how his career has evolved to where it is now, where he's got so many interesting things happening. He's sitting at the comment desk at the
The
Olympics,
Olympics. Yeah.
and everybody
Exactly.
loves it, and he's so funny, and it's just great.
Yeah. Has always been that guy. And he has his hands in so many things right now. And I love to see it.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. Okay, so you're from Long Beach,
So, yep.
and
So
yep,
from
and
Long
so
Beach.
and when and how and why did you choose hair?
So, wasn't my first love or passion. And in fact, I didn't even know it was a love or passion. So growing up, I had a neighbor who was a singer and I loved to dance. So I was one of her backup dancers and she performed around Los Angeles. And so she had two or three backup dancers. I was one of them. And then we moved from that into becoming like a singing group, like the backup dancers, they put us together as a singing group. So I was like in the entertainment and the arts, like growing up basically. And by the way, I do not sing. So they just had me in the group, I think, because, they loved me. I don't know. But I can
Did you have to
dance.
act like you were singing?
No, no,
Did
no.
you have to lip sync?
I can hold a tune. I can create a harmony. Like I wasn't like leading a song, but
Okay,
you felt my presence there,
all right,
and I was missed when I wasn't. But yeah, I wasn't leading the song. So about
got
that.
it.
Additionally, fun fact, I used to dance on Soul Train. So
Oh,
yeah,
love Soul Train.
fun
I
fact.
love Soul Train. All of it was just such a specific time in my life. Soul Train. I had a TV in my room, and it came on late at night. And I'm sure that a lot of the listeners of generally our era, have similar feelings about Soul Train. Okay, so were you like up on one of the platforms?
No, they wouldn't put us up there because we had on too much clothes.
Ah,
So, also, let's see, I don't remember the years exactly, but I can tell you I started going maybe when I was about 17 and I went until I was 21 because at 21 I moved to New York. So, yeah,
okay.
I danced for 4 years. So this was around the time like when Mary J. Blige came out, Jodeci came out. So there was a group of us that were like, we were dressed like that. We had the big baggy pants, maybe the little crop top, the big baseball cap with the curly hair popping out of the top of the hat. And we were like really into like the latest like hip hop moves. And so, Soul Train they featured a lot, like the majority of the women they featured were like in like the tight dresses and that wasn't our thing. So every blue moon they would throw one of us up on the stage to do some stuff, but we got some camera time, but we weren't like the featured people because
Got it.
literally we knew we just had on too much clothes.
Right.
Like,
Oh, that's so
it's a
funny.
crazy thing to say, but we knew it.
Sure.
So let me add, just to add to my dancing space, that's what I did. But yeah, so I was in these groups, and after high school, my mom was like, listen, what are you going to do? So I ended up going to a junior college studying criminal justice and for a semester. And you want to talk about misery. I was
Ah,
in misery. Oh my gosh. I was like, this is so not for me. And it was something that I thought, I was very passionate about making a change. But I just wasn't mentally prepared for that at that time. So let me full
that's a
circle say
big
that
change.
it's a big change. And because there was so much happening in California at that time with race riots and things like that. So I just wanted to be I just wanted to be a part of something where I was instrumental in helping people, period.
Mhm.
That I just didn't really think it through and just thought that was what I wanted to do, and it wasn't. Luckily to say, here I am in the beauty space and still helping people and making changes, but very different. Um, so during after I so I dropped out of school after one semester, and one of my girlfriends came to me and was like, "Hey, Tippi, I noticed that whenever you all do your performances, you all look really great. Who does your hair and makeup?" And I'm like, "Actually, I do. I do all of our hair and makeup." And I'm like, in fact, while everyone's like rehearsing and harmonizing and practicing, I'm thinking about what do we look like, what are we wearing, what is our hair, And she was like, "Oh, you're pretty good at that. You should consider going to beauty school." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even think about that. Like it wasn't even something I thought about." So
But it
to that
hit you. But
point,
it hit you positively when she said that.
yeah, yeah, it did. And it wasn't exactly just beauty school. So the idea, however, was either fashion. So I was either going to go to FITM, so the Fashion Institute
Mhm.
of Design and Merchandising, or beauty school. And I felt like I was more in tune with the hair and makeup aspect of things. So I loved it. And I did have a few friends who were already in beauty school or just starting their careers. But also, let me add, I was best friends growing up with the daughter of an institution. There is a hairstylist named Doris Mosley who is legendary in Los Angeles. She had a salon or a couple of salons at the time called Another Beauty Salon. And she currently has a show called The Spectrum Show. Her son is John Mosley. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Of
He goes by
course,
Popular Nobody. Okay.
I know John really well. He's awesome.
Okay. Yes.
Now in
So
Dallas. Now John's in
he's in
Dallas
Dallas
now.
now. Yeah. So he grew up across the street from me. We grew up across the street from each other.
Oh, that's
His
so cool.
mom is a legend in the beauty industry. So I grew, and so his sister was my best friend in high school. Her name's Ann Mosley. She's now a makeup artist and skincare specialist. But I was a hair model for Doris all through high school. So
Wow.
I loved the community. I loved the beauty community. I loved being a part of those shows. I would assist sometimes, but for the majority, I mean, I've got a ton of hair. I've always had a ton of
Mhm.
hair. And so I was either Doris's model or John's oldest sister, Lily Frierson, who is in the union and works in film and television in Hollywood. I was either of their hair models. So I was very, very in tune with the beauty industry and loved it and thought that I would be great in it because I already knew people who was involved in it. So yeah, I took
Yeah.
that advice super positively, actually.
Wow, that's so
Yeah,
interesting how this kind of all of these experiences are coalescing.
yeah.
These experiences that started from when you were a kid, whether it was the exposure to the entertainment or the beauty, and then together it's just makes so much sense. All right, so did you run off to beauty school?
Yeah, so I went to beauty school. In fact, I went full time and then I did extra time. So any opportunity I could stay at night, come on the weekends, whatever, I was there because I had a job waiting for me upon graduating. So during beauty school, I was getting additional hours by assisting at Doris Mosley's salon, one of her salons. So I was like a salon assistant.
Hmm.
And then right after graduation, I became an official assistant to a hairstylist named Jamaica Wilson, who I believe maybe she's at a Salon Republic. I feel like maybe she is. But when I was assisting her, she had a salon in Carson, California.
Okay.
And it was called Identities at the time. And yeah, so Jamaica Wilson, fun fact, who she was the first woman of color to win an Oscar for hairstyling.
Oh my God,
So yeah, so she won
amazing.
that three, four, I don't remember how many years ago, but it was in the last 5 years that she just won this Oscar, and
Wow.
it was for doing the hair for Viola Davis for Women King. I think that was
Okay.
the film. Yeah,
Yeah.
so she was my
Wow.
first boss, like my first real
My
boss as a
gosh.
hairstylist, and I
This is royalty that you're hanging out with. I mean, this without you even knowing it almost.
yeah,
You just
exactly.
were surrounded by awesome
So
people and
fortunate.
experiences.
So fortunate. It's so wild, because a lot of people say, I scraped, it was hard. I had all these, uphill battles. And I'm thinking I did too, but I also feel super fortunate. I don't know if my story is as, if I had as many things to overcome. And my husband's like, don't sell your story short. Like you did have a lot of hurdles, it may not have been someone else's hurdles, but you had your own hurdles. But I also
Well,
had, um, I was fortunate to have really, instrumental people in my life in that way.
and I think yeah, I understand the don't sell yourself short idea, but oftentimes the way that life works is you have certain positive elements of yourself that you have developed and that are maybe natural to you. Maybe your parents gave them to you, whatever. And these natural positive elements of yourself attract people around you. And you clearly have attracted a lot of high quality people around you because of who you are. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's amazing. That's fantastic.
I agree. And I no longer, I don't always feel that way, but I am happy and proud of my origin. And to your point, it really has, I do believe you get what you put out. And I've always put out this energy that I'm giving to you, and people receive that. And I'm a true believer in that. I've met people and I've seen their energy shift with the different people they've met. And I truly believe it's because their energy they're receiving from the different people. So, I've always put this energy out. So, and then I really got great energy back. So, so I ended up working with Jamaica for 2 years, and she actually, I was happy. I was happy to work with her. I was like, I could do this forever. And she's like, girl, you got to move on. You got to start taking your own clients. And so she literally pushed me out of the nest.
Oh, that's
and
funny.
I worked on my own for about a year, and then I moved to New York.
You worked on your own for about a year. You did clients behind the chair, quote unquote, normal people.
Yeah.
And then you moved to New York. What was the catalyst for that? Was that just you wanting to get back in the entertainment thing, or did somebody call you?
Well, so I wasn't in entertainment as a hairstylist at this point, because California is entertainment. I could have definitely done it there, but I had the opportunity. Well, actually, no one gave me an opportunity. I had a group of friends, and we'd always talked about moving to different places. There was a group that were like, I'm moving to Atlanta. There was a group that I'm moving to Miami, and I led the group of I'm moving to New York. So, so we had a different, we just wanted different experiences in life. And let me just say, out of all the people who wanted to move to New York, I was the only one that moved. The only one. There were like five of us. The
group, quote unquote, was you.
Yeah, I was the group. So, but in the entertainment, I did know I want to work in entertainment, because it didn't even dawn on me early on that celebrities had hairstylists. I don't even know why I didn't think that, or I just didn't know,
Yeah.
And I had no idea what that business looked like. And in fact, I think it was John Mosley's sister, Lily. She got hired to do, I think, Mary J. Blige for like the cover of Vibe magazine. I was like, oh, wait, that's a thing that I can be hired for that. And that was the first opportunity. And then Jamaica, my boss at the time, was hired. She was doing a couple of groups like Brownstone, singing group called Brownstone, and then CeCe Peniston. So I had like a little taste of being her assistant for those things, and I knew I wanted to do that. But I also wanted to be in New York, where just as a young woman, I just enjoyed like the stylistics of the men there more. Keep in mind, we're talking early 90s, and Jerry curls were a big thing in California, and I was not into that at all.
So that's hilarious. Now we get to the reason. She didn't like Jerry curls, so she moved.
I mean, hey,
that's gonna be the title of the episode, by the way.
Well, which is so funny. A few friends of mine and we were just on Instagram talking about Jerry curls, and and how I distinctly remember when Jerry curls came out. I was in 6th grade, and we were moving into middle school the next year, and my friends and I made a pact. We're all going to get Jerry curls over the summer. We're going to go to our brand new middle school with these Jerry curls. And all the friends came back with Jerry curls except for me. And my mom would not let me get one. Keep in mind, my mom had a Jerry curl at the time. So she literally told me, I do not want both sides of my couches. I do not want both sides of my couch looking crazy. So she's messing up her side of the couch with her greasy hair, and she didn't want both sides. I know, it's crazy.
So funny.
So just a fun fact on Jerry curls. But I was not into that. That whole like I think NWA was coming out around. I was just not into the aesthetic.
I was gonna say Eazy-E. I remember all that. I
Yeah, I
remember.
was I was more down with like Wu-Tang Clan, Method Man, Tribe Called Quest. You give me the like, that whole vibe, that whole East Coast vibe. That's where I was like mentally and like physically where the space and the type of guys I wanted to date. And I was not finding that in Los Angeles, so I had to go to New York.
Hilarious. That's so
Meanwhile,
funny.
my husband's from Kansas City. Meanwhile.
Oh, there you go. Midwest, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Wholesome.
yeah, good old guy.
All right. So you're in New York and you hit the ground running. What happened?
Yeah, so I had a friend in California who had just moved there from New York. She was a receptionist at a salon in the Upper East Side, so she introduced me to the salon owner. So I had an assistant job as soon as I moved there, and he was really wanting me to kind of be an assistant and take appointments. And I had a roommate. My roommate got an internship at Essence Magazine. And Essence Magazine, for women of color is Vogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I utilized that opportunity. She was my business card. Every week she had something different. Short blonde pixie next week, long red extensions next week, blonde braids, whatever. And so she started referring me tons and tons of women who worked there because they all loved her look. And all of a sudden, I'm like booked solid with all these like professional women that work at Essence Magazine that
In
dictate
media,
in media.
absolutely. Huge.
Yeah,
So you saw the opportunity and you took advantage of it. It was
absolutely,
fantastic. Super
absolutely.
smart. Super smart.
Absolutely. And so one day, within 6 months of me living there, and I'm dating myself, so the Ricky Lake Show. So for those of you who remember what that was, the Ricky Lake
I
Show
do.
called, yeah,
I'll date
same.
myself along with you. I
The
didn't
Ricky
watch it
Lake
very much,
Show.
but
No,
yeah.
no, me either. But they called Essence Magazine because they were doing makeovers and they wanted someone who specialized in curly hair or textured hair. And the woman who answered was one of my clients. So she
Wow.
recommended me. So within 6 months of living in New York City, I was on a nationally syndicated television show doing makeovers. So
Unbelievable.
that was crazy, I know. And while the show was airing, I mean, I was receiving tons and tons of phone calls for appointments in New York City. And so that was really kind of how I grew my salon business in New York. How I ended up doing and getting into celebrity was because at that same salon that I was there for about a year, I guess. That same salon. I remember going downstairs. I'm an introvert. I'm good with people I feel comfortable with. I'm not really good with people I don't know very well,
Okay.
specifically in person.
You're good with
So,
me and you
well,
don't know
thank
me.
you.
I guess
I
you've gotten
no,
to know me a little.
yeah, yeah. Also, we're talking 30 years now, so I've matured
Yeah,
greatly.
true.
But I remember the salon owner telling me to go downstairs and hand out business cards. And so I did. And so downstairs was a pizza shop. And I just saw this beautiful woman walking down the street, two big Labradors, just golden lab retrievers. And they were just stunning. She was beautiful. And her hair was like into this little bitty bun. I'm like, oh, she's too beautiful to have this bun. I literally told her that. I was like, excuse me, miss, I don't know if you need a hairstylist, but you were too pretty for your bun. Here's my card. And she took my card and said, oh, um, well, I don't need your card because I represent hairstylists. And I'm like, what does that
Oh,
mean? Yeah,
what?
like, are you a lawyer? Like, what? We have our own
Yeah,
lawyers. I don't know what that means.
yeah.
And so she began to tell me that she was a talent manager and she represented hair, makeup, wardrobe, nails for a celebrity. And I was like, oh, I was like, the one time I decide to open my mouth, it's to a woman who
Right?
represent, and so she told me, bring your portfolio to my office. I'll take a look at it. I love people who are still in the salon. You guys keep your ideas fresh. I prefer, people who keep their fingers on the pulse, in salon. So I had no idea what a portfolio meant. So for that whole week, I asked her to give me a week. For that whole week, I was just taking before and afters of all my clients with like a Polaroid. And then went to like the Dwayne Reed and bought like the little 4x6, little leather bound. And I put on my little photos in it and I took it to her office. When I say this woman like gut laughed, for like a solid 10 minutes of my book. And she was like, yeah, this is not a portfolio, but I appreciate the effort. I can see a little talent here, and I'm going to give you a shot. And she booked me on my very first music video. And
Wow.
it was a singing group at the time called 702, three girls out of Vegas. And I did their music video. And yeah, that was my very first celebrity job.
So awesome. Sometimes it's just opening your mouth. Sometimes it's going down and handing out cards, right? Just creating the opportunity. Sometimes the opportunities fall in our laps and we have to take advantage of them when they do that.
Yep.
Sometimes you have to go out there and shake the trees a little bit. Whatever
Yep.
metaphor you want to use, sometimes you got to go make it happen.
Yep.
And that's what you did. Even if you didn't really recognize that by going out on the street and passing out cards to strangers, as uncomfortable as that was, you didn't recognize that that could lead to something really great.
Right, exactly. I had zero idea that what that was going to turn into, and super fortunate. So she was my manager for about 6 months, but what it did, it taught me so many things. But the most important thing is that it put me in situations for me to network with other hair and makeup artists. And we started shooting. I started building a real portfolio. I got to learn what that truly looked like. Really started to meet my network of people, the people who spoke my language, my tribe, if you will. And yeah, so that was the best opportunity for me. And you really, from that point, it was just all, I was really kind of focused on building a celebrity hairstylist career at that point.
Yeah, and you did that for 15 years, you said.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you decided to, well, I mean, those 15 years, I think we alluded to the kind of lifestyle that is, but maybe we can talk about it just for a minute more. For all those listeners who dream of having such a lifestyle, give them a behind the scenes of what it's like.
Okay. It's hard work. It's consistently being at the top of your game. You're challenged constantly. And then let me just say, I truly enjoyed it with every part of my being, but it was tough because not only are you needing to impress your actual client, you need to also impress perhaps their partner, their assistant, their manager, their publisher, their
Their
or
team.
publicist, their entire team, but not team in general, because within that team there are different ideas, and I've had to be the mediator, I've had to be the mom, I've had to be the assistant, I've had to be the nail tech, I've had to be the wardrobe person, I've sometimes had to be the makeup artist, I've been the babysitter. You kind of put on many, many, many hats when you are a part of a celebrity team. Obviously you're there and you're hired to do your actual job, but when you become part of the team, you are truly exactly that. You are part of the team. And that's been amazing. And for a long time, just so for anyone who's interested in getting into this space, hairstylists or celebrities tend to put their teams in three categories, in A, B, and C. They've got their A team, their B team, their C team. Their A team are the ones, the first people they call whenever they've got something big. These are the people they know, love, trust, can depend on whatever. They can close their eyes and know that they're going to look amazing. They've got their B team that they like just as much, but they just like A a bit more. And then they've got their C that maybe they pay a little bit less. They don't necessarily love all the things about this person. Maybe it's their work, maybe it's their work ethic, maybe it's their whatever. But they do still hire them, and it's usually for like small small moments. It's not like the major life moments. So I, for a long time, was a couple of people's A team person, and when I started to pivot, I was okay being the C, and not in the space where they felt like they didn't love what I did, but just for me, I didn't want to feel like I needed to be at someone's beck and call every single time. As the C
Sure.
person, I knew I would get called maybe once, maybe twice a month, and that was fine for me. So if it's something that you want to do, just try to find the space and the pace that works for you. And if you aren't their A person, don't take it personally. It's okay, because it actually might work better for your personal lifestyle. And that allows you actually to work with more people when you aren't someone's A person.
Yeah. No doubt about it. And I imagine with the being in the A slot, your life is not really so much your own.
At all. Not at all. In fact, there was a consecutive 2 months where I was on retainer. So whether I was working or not, I got a weekly check, but I also had to be available for this one client at any given time, which means
24 hours a day.
I could not take another job with anybody else. So,
Right.
And it made sense for me financially for that amount of time at that time. And they were super respectful of the hours. The client wasn't doing something at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's a lie, actually. If we had to do if you're doing those Today shows that come on at 6, you're starting work at 3.
6 Eastern.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're starting work at 3 in the morning, which means I'm leaving my house at 2 in the morning, which means I'm waking up at 1 in the morning.
Right. Which means you're probably maybe not going to bed.
That part. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Well, I've definitely heard that, and so hopefully that gives the listeners some idea. All right. So you transitioned out of that type of your career. I often talk about all the different things in the beauty industry that you can do. There's so many different things, from being a barber in a neighborhood shop to being in a corporate role at a manufacturer, and so many other things, everything in between, traveling, not traveling, this, that. So I like to give the listeners an idea of all the different things. So you transitioned out of that because you wanted your life back.
I did.
That's probably about when you got married to Mr. Rank, and when you had your baby, who's not a baby anymore. She's 17 and about to go off to college.
Yes.
Okay, so that was the catalyst there. And did you just go to a local salon and start working?
So prior to, all the time while working with celebrity, I was in salon, and it wasn't until I met Rihanna. So this was Pond to Replay time. I did all of her first 2 projects, and then half of her 3rd project, and then I was with Alicia, and then I came back for Rihanna, a part of Rihanna's 5th project. I think it was her 5th one. So I was in salon up until 2000, and I was in salon, I guess, for about 4 years. And then I was out of the salon for about 15 years. When I transitioned, I became an educator. So my very first educational job was the Global Artistic Director for Texture with Aveda. And I was in that role for 6 years. So I still got to travel globally, but it was amazing. I got to, do collection shoots, commercials, education, all the fun stuff. And then I left the Estee Lauder family and moved into the L'Oreal family. So I still was not in salon until I opened my salon 2 years ago. So for 17 years, I have not been in a salon. Now, I've been in a salon educating. Yeah, I've been in a salon educating. And then occasionally I would do pop-ups in LA or New York to take appointments like once a month. And then when I moved to Kansas City, I did find one salon that I thought was beautiful. It reminded me so much of New York. And I would do like 1 or 2 days a month here just to kind of meet people because I didn't know anyone here. But yeah, no, I have not been in a salon. I haven't been in a salon for longer than 2 days a month up until 2 years ago.
Wow. Very cool. And then you opened up your own salon. You're moving your salon right now. The construction is taking place, and none of that stops because you have a cold.
Yeah.
So as we wrap things up, give us a. So normally at the end of an episode, I do a hair horror story. Do you have any really good hair horror stories that took place on all of your travels and exciting ventures?
Kind of have 2. I remember, I don't know if it's a hair horror story. Well, it's a horror story. I remember my very first time I went to Paris with Rihanna. I brought the oven, like the old school oven, because that's what I was using at the time. Flat irons weren't super sophisticated and super hot yet, so we're talking like, mid 2000s. And I remember being in Paris, and I remember plugging in my appliances. No one told me, and I didn't do research, that I needed a different voltage. I needed an
Oh yeah.
adapter. I didn't know. So I plug in my oven and we go into her bathroom and I dip her over the sink of the tub and I'm washing her hair. We've got this beautiful view of the Eiffel Tower. We come out of that bathroom. The oven is on fire. There's like flames coming. And I don't know what gorgeous historic hotel we're in, you know,
Yeah.
but it was close to being burned down because
Oh.
I had this oven that was like, when I say flames were coming from it, so we were able to obviously to put it out, no harm
Yeah.
done, nothing damaged, but
It
boy,
shorted out because the
the one,
240 was instead
yes,
of the 120 or whatever,
yes,
right?
yes, exactly. So that was one. The other one was,
Now, hold on. Was she
yeah,
laughing or
oh
was
yeah,
she
oh yeah.
freaking out? Okay.
She has an amazing sense of humor. Obviously she was freaking out, so this was like new into her career, and
Yeah.
we both were horrified, but
Yeah.
we both were able to laugh about it
Okay.
after. So she wasn't like mad or upset or anything because neither of
Okay.
us knew. We didn't know.
Yeah.
So that was one. And the other, I mentioned earlier, sometimes you have to wake up at the crack of dawn to start work. I do remember doing a Today Show, like one of those morning shows, Good Morning America, maybe. And Alicia came a little late and her hair was wet. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman, she's gonna like, her hair's wet. She wants to wear this like straight look because that's the look we were doing at the time. Luckily, I had a wig. Luckily, I had a wig. I basically had Alicia's wet hair in a plastic processing cap underneath a wig. And my biggest fear was that water was going to be dripping down her face
Yeah.
during her interview. And so luckily it didn't. And when it did start to drip, she was performing and it just looked like sweat.
Yeah. I was going to
But
say
when
sweat.
oh my gosh, talk about like crazy like fear. And she didn't wear wigs often. I just happened to
Yeah.
have one, and because sometimes you have 15 minutes to get it together.
Yeah.
And so that was another horror story.
Maybe that was the last time she ever showed up late with wet
No,
hair. That was probably very uncomfortable for her.
I wish I could say, but we
Oh.
pivoted. We would do a ponytail or something else.
Okay.
But I think we just like really had a clear idea of what she wanted to do with her hair based on what she was wearing, and it was like down and straight. And yeah, so luckily I had that wig.
I love that story. Any last words for the beauty community out there?
Man, the beauty industry is beautiful. There are endless opportunities, endless possibilities. You truly can find your space within the beauty industry.
100%. And you've been an inspiration and you've given us a lot of behind the scenes and things to think about. So I appreciate it, Tippi Shorter Rank. You're Tippi
Thank
Shorter
you.
on Instagram.
Yes.
And that's where to go to check out more about Tippi. Good luck with your salon move and everything else.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This was such a fun conversation, and I appreciate you.